Hi folks, how are you doing? This is Iqbal with NVIDIA Daily Analysis. NVIDIA is still in the correction phase and some profit taking is happening before the earnings season. We'll further discuss NVIDIA stock assessment in this video. We'll also evaluate technical charts and other fundamentals to make this assessment. We'll also test the earnings calendar for next week for other tech stocks. Now, let's get started. Starting with the daily summary, Nvidia opened at 142.03. It made a high of 142.43. It made a low 137.46 and it closed at 139.56. That is 2.81% down. So now Nvidia is down 2 days in a row. Last 5 days, Nvidia is still up about 0.20%. But year to date, you can see a very good return, about 189%, and should continue to go up before the next earnings. So I'm guessing around 200% would be a good estimate. So, in my opinion, today's correction was not a surprise to me because 4 days in a row before yesterday, Nvidia was up, and probably about 12 to 13%, Nvidia was up in previous 4 days before yesterday. So there was some correction or profit taking was due this week, as I mentioned in my previous video. And next week would be very exciting for Nvidia because more earnings are coming from other tech stocks next week. All the three major indices were negative today. For example, S&P was down about 0.92%, and Nasdaq was down about 0.10%, and Dow Jones were down about 0.96%. So there was some clarity in the market and the trend was down today. I do not see any major reason for this downtrend. Probably it's a seasonal correction that's happening yesterday and today. Now let's take a look at forward P for Nvidia. Forward P for Nvidia is not much change from last week. At this point is 44.73 versus last week 44.23. And you still see that it's still below 50 forward P. So Nvidia still has more room to go further up before the next earning, and that is probably due 4 weeks from now. Palantir 125.26, slightly down from last week. SMCI 14.27. SMCI continues to go down, but I'm still hopeful for SMCI that it should bounce back before the earnings. AMD 39.72, slightly below from the last week closing. Now let's take a look quarterly percentage change analysis for Nvidia. Based on the cumulative percentage change for this quarter, Nvidia is slightly below from yesterday. At this point, Nvidia is up about 19% from the previous earnings. So with respect to the cumulative percentage change, Nvidia still has some room to go further up, probably about 12 to 13% in next 3 to 4 weeks. And for next week, I am watching these companies and some earnings are due. For example, AMD, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple. And then following week, we have Palantir and SMCI. So next week, I guess AMD, Meta, and Microsoft, all three are very important earnings with respect to Nvidia, and that can impact Nvidia shares as well. I will do some analysis on AMD and Meta if I have some time over the weekend and find it out how much earnings surprise we can expect on these companies. Now let's take a look technical charts for Nvidia and try to make some assessment. You see 180-day hourly interval chart for Nvidia and also the MACD chart. In the MACD chart, you see that MACD line continues to go down from yesterday. And as I mentioned in my yesterday video that the momentum is down and probably this slowdown may continue today as well. So that's what we noted today. But for tomorrow, I'm seeing some small recovery might happen because you see that in the later afternoon, I see MACD line started making some progress on the upward direction. But both possibilities exist because in last 2 days Nvidia was down, but no major drop happened on Nvidia compared with previous 4 days of upside momentum. Right, in the previous 4 days, Nvidia went up about 12 to 13% versus last 2 days, probably about 3% down. So there is some room for Nvidia to make more correction at the same time, but I would vote for the possibility number one, where I see that some recovery might happen tomorrow. Now you see the Fibonacci level, the lowest level, I still kept the same value, that is 75.7, and that was this lowest point, but the highest value for Fibonacci level, that's 100%, I moved up to new all-time high, and that is 144.5. So now we have a new Fibonacci levels for 78% correction, 61% retracement, and 50% retracement, and 38% retracement. So based on Fibonacci level, the next level of support is at 129.78. Nvidia is trading around 140. There's still more room to go further down, but I'm guessing it may not go down to 129 in next few days. So just in case if Nvidia goes down to 129 or 130, I will buy more Nvidia shares. That's my plan. So I keep holding Nvidia shares because I am positive that Nvidia should bounce back. For the worst case, if Nvidia goes down further to 129, I have my plan ready. And based on the Bollinger Bands, as we noted yesterday, that the Bollinger Bands started contracting, as you can see here, these two bands. But today it further expanded, but on the downward side. That says momentum today was downward, but it was weak as well. Because after expanding, Bollinger Bands again started contracting, and that says some slowdown is still maybe expected with Nvidia. I mean, in other words, no clarity of direction at this point on Nvidia. Now let's take a look some news and reports regarding Nvidia from other analysts. Let's take a look this one, and this looks interesting. This says the bullish breakout for Nvidia's stock could be a false one if this happens. Let's open it. So basically they are trying to say that the sell-off in Nvidia Corp stock on Wednesday is raising some concern that the recent leap into record territory was just a head fake and not the start of a new bullish phase. It further says that it looks like a false breakout to some chart watchers. So this report or analysis is trying to scare Nvidia shareholders, but in my opinion, it should not be the case. And we know that Nvidia has a history of going up and then after a few days making some correction. So in my opinion, no sign of worry at this point. Now let's take a look this one that says Nvidia shares are trading lower Wednesday after CEO Jensen Huang reportedly acknowledged that the Taiwan semiconductor assisted in resolving a design flaw in its latest Blackwell AI chips. So this is very important news. So this tells that they are still struggling on the design issue. Okay, and if you read between the lines, there is some possibility that they can further push out the Blackwell launch date, and that won't be good for Nvidia, and that can cause Nvidia shares to go down big. But at this point, there is no such official news from Nvidia that the Blackwell chip launch is going to be impacted, but we need to be very watchful for these kind of news and or reports. So now let's take a look this one that says what's going on with Nvidia stock on Wednesday. Let's open it. Okay, it's probably saying the same thing that Mr. Jensen Huang is talking about, the design flaw regarding Blackwell chip. So nothing different. So another one that also talks about the chip flaw, and this says that Nvidia stock slips, AI chip flaw has been fixed, CEO says report. So basically, Mr. Jensen Huang is trying to do some damage control. He thinks that before somebody else break this news that Nvidia had some Blackwell chip issue, he's trying to clarify that the issue has been fixed and no need to worry about this. Now it depends on the market. If market can trust what Mr. Jensen Huang is saying, if the market trusts what he's saying, then probably Nvidia should be back to normal, meaning should again get some positive momentum in next day or two. Now let's take a look this one that says US stocks expected to open in red as investors eye Tesla earnings. So let's take a look what happened with Tesla today. Wow, for the first time in last 4 quarters, Tesla was able to beat the earnings, and that is 19.77%. And that's big. And you see, that's the reason why Tesla is up about 12% after hours. But they're still behind on the revenue, 1.05% down. As we scroll down further, I do not see anything specific or different for Nvidia, kind of more generic news or analysis that may not be relevant for Nvidia stock price. So overall summary is, Nvidia was under pressure today because of the Blackwell chip flaw that Mr. Jensen Huang was talking about, but at the same time he said the issue has been fixed. Probably, in my opinion, market would trust what he said and should come back to normal. Now let's take a look other AI stocks. So all of the AI and tech stocks in my watch list are negative today. The highest negative change is in SoundHound, that is 5.50% down, and the least negative is on Microsoft, that is 0.68% down. You see economic calendar for this week and next week on your screen. As you mentioned yesterday and before, that no major data is expected this week and also early next week. And next week, most probably, the mover and shakers would be the earnings from the other AI or tech stocks, and these economic data would be less relevant next week. So that's all about my analysis and assessment for NVIDIA for today and also next few days. And I also uploaded my Excel sheets on my Patreon account. I hope you liked the video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more in the next video. Take care.